Not. 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 Not.
Come on, baby, focus.
Not. 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 Not.
Greetings the internet and hello from this side of the galaxy. It's your boy Spud, and in this episode of Mountains Out of Molehills, I'm going to be addressing something that we've all had to deal with for the majority of our lives. It is something that has both liberated us as well as limited us while traumatizing us throughout the entire process. One of the most influential experiences in the lives of young children is school. India, in this case, is quite proactive when it comes to educating the masses, not only by providing free education to children up to 14 years old, but also providing an incentive for them to go to school in the first place. Honestly, that's better than many other countries in the world, and that's about it when it comes to the positives of the system that we have in place. Now, India's education system goes back hundreds of years, but the British are the ones who really understood the importance of, opening up education to the masses and not just to the aristocrats or, the Brahmins. In 1830, the British government approached this guy called Thomas Babington Macaulay, who was an essayist and had an estimated IQ of around 160 to 180. Now, the Queen approached him and said कि भाई तू इंडिया चले जा, इंडिया में जाके तू रिसर्च कर. It's our biggest colony, it's our most profitable colony. So you figure out some ways to make it better. So Thomas Babington Macaulay obviously said, fuck off, because in his mind, India was a land of lepers and disease, and who wants to go to a land of lepers and disease? So the Queen throws in 10,000 pounds to sweeten the deal, and that 10,000 pounds translated to today's value is somewhere around £500,000. Yeah, that is something I would do for £500,000. So this guy completes 4 years in India. घंटा कुछ समझ में आता उसको. He doesn't learn a single language. He goes back to Britain and he writes this treatise called The Minute on Education. On the 2nd of Feb 1835, this guy stands in front of the British Parliament and gives a speech. And I'm not going to get into the entire content of the speech because it is quite boring, but the entire speech can be summarized by one line that Macaulay said, and that was, and I quote, "If we don't teach them as in the Indians, English, they will spend the better part of their youth touching a cow's ass." The mad lad actually said this in the middle of Parliament, and that has set the tone of English education in India. However, do not be mistaken and think that the British did it out of an altruistic need of bettering the lives of the people of India. They had very specific goals while creating the education system to be put in place. The goal was to not create an educated individual who could think for themselves and had independent thought and all that, but to create a mindless drone who knew how to follow instructions and to not ask too many questions, basically. They wanted to create low-level government employees who would be pencil pushers at best and could also, communicate with their British superiors easily. It's more than fair to say that the British only brought English education to India to make their own lives easier, so that they don't have to learn some 20-odd languages to communicate to the English slaves or workers that they had. Now fast forward to 2020, we really have not changed much when it comes to the system. Yes, we have changed what was taught and we have added some new things, but the core ideology has remained the same. The method of instruction even today places more importance on following instructions as opposed to original thoughts and ideas. We are expected to memorize things and not learn them. Throughout schooling, memory and recollection are rewarded more than original thought and ideas. And here's an example. The Newton's first law of motion, as given in the 9th standard textbook, State Board, goes, a body remains in its state of rest or uniform motion in a straight line unless an external, unbalanced force acts upon it. This statement will get you full marks if asked in a test. The statement that is a little bit more simplified and is mentioned in Halliday-Resnick's Fundamentals of Physics is, if no force acts on a body, the velocity cannot change, that is, the body cannot accelerate. Now, this definition is a little bit more simplified, but at the same time, it is still fundamentally correct. However, 7 out of 10 teachers will mark this incorrect, and 9 out of 10 teachers will tell you to follow what's in the textbook because that's what will fetch you marks in your board exams. If you remember what's in the textbook and regurgitate verbatim in your paper, you'll score good marks. End of story, regardless of whether you understand the subject matter or not. And here's a kicker. It's not like we don't know there are better ways of educating. Many strategies which have years of child psychology and cognitive research behind them are regularly dismissed by your pencil-pushing test addict administrators. I know that this is one of those really overused statistics, but just bear with me for a bit. The Indian education factory pumps out more engineers than any other nation in the world, but creates zero Nobel laureates. Also, fun fact, more than 95% of these engineers are unemployable, but that is the subject matter of another video altogether. Funnily enough, but not surprisingly, India also has one of the highest student suicide rates in the world. 20 students kill themselves every day, with one student attempting suicide every hour. Our education system has worked so hard to stifle the creativity and curiosity of young minds that any attempt to break out of this system is seen as weakness or laziness. Our nation fails to see that the youth of the country is so depressed due to the rampant disregard for the mental well-being of students. It's proven that test scores have very little correlation to the actual understanding of a subject. The narrative that test scores are used to augment the method of teaching is bullshit, and if you've ever been to a state government school, you know what I'm talking about. Now you might say, Spud, how can you say that the education system sucks when engineers like, your Sundar Pichai and Satya Nadella are at the head of some of the biggest IT giants in the world? The answer to that, my dear skeptical friend, is that they are the 1% who made it, and we've used that as marketing material to fool an entire nation into a common delusion. Steve Jobs dropped out of college and made Apple computers. Mark Zuckerberg dropped out of college and created Facebook. That doesn't mean every dropout is going to be a Mark Zuckerberg or a Steve Jobs. We only ever hear the success stories when we really should be focusing on the failures. The bitter truth is the fact that we were educated in English so that it would be easier for the British to communicate with us. Now, students from our country use that as a bargaining chip for their employment in American companies. They'll do it cheaper, not ask too many questions, and will be able to talk to clients all over the world without any problems. It's a win-win for the corporations who hire them. We've created the best system to create mindless workers who don't question things because that spark died in them by the time they finished school. As a country, we have failed to learn about the various ways in which every student is unique. We fail to incorporate a sense of why one must learn advanced mathematics or science. Our entire narrative of education has circled around the fact that you must know this so you can give exams, get good marks, and then get a job. And that, my friends, is the singular biggest flaw in the education system. The answer to why should I learn maths, bud, shouldn't be so that you can get a job and be a good laborer while the wealthy profit of your hard work throwing you the odd scrap every now and then. You and I can change this. We can stop the generational trauma that has been passed on to us by the generations before us right here. Our children deserve better than what we had, and only we can make that change. I'm not talking about taking to the streets right now, but every revolution begins with an idea, and this is one. I would love to hear all of your opinions on this in the comments. I read every comment and I try to reply to as many as I can. Like this video if you liked my content, and sub for similar content. Hit that notification bell to get updated about my videos, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace!